You're first.
Good. Hi, I'm Gavin Curtis. I have a company. It's Ecophyte Consulting. I've spoken with Commissioner Thompson here a little bit about the biosolids. Legal counsel did bring that up, and it's an area that I have a fair amount of expertise in, just in working. And since I've spoken to Commissioner Thompson, I've done a fair amount of work, spoken to some community groups. I've spoken to Energy Trust of Oregon, and I've spoken to a very experienced engineer out in Missouri that I'm collaborating with as well, and I was at the Lincoln City Commission meeting on Monday as well. So I just kind of wanted to introduce myself, and the one thing that I brought up was the one thing with biosolids is that right now what Lincoln City has done, because they've actually stopped spreading it, but their solution isn't, for me, a very sustainable one, because what they've decided to do is dry it out and then dump it in the landfill. Now, I think we can all agree that that's just not what we should be doing. And one of my best solutions is the anaerobic digester, which takes the biosolids, turns it into natural gas, and creates energy and actually a fertilizer that can be spread on land. And I know one of the concerns of Commissioner Thompson was the cost, because to build a facility like this is pretty expensive. But what I found in the meantime as well, with researching the funding options, especially through the Energy Trust, is that there's a lot of money that has become available and a lot of private financing as well. So I wanted to, and especially the fact that we had this sort of summit coming up, I wanted to make sure that the anaerobic digestion component was placed in a good position to as an option, as a sustainable option for a permanent sustainable solution to this problem, because we can take all of the wastewater from these other small cities, Siletz and Depot Bay, and even the biosolids from here in Newport, and they can all be fed into a digester, and we can create a significant amount of energy. In fact, Ron, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Crested Butte. I think it is. Is that there's a plant close to Corvallis that Republic Services owns, and Coffin Butte. My bad. Yes, sorry. And they're producing it's the same basic thing. They don't actually have an anaerobic digester, because they're just taking, it's basically sort of compost, and organic matter, and they're converting that to natural gas, and they're powering 7,000 homes. So it's a real it's a real solution that I think I'd like to be and I'm going to remain involved one way or the other, because I think it's a good solution for the watershed.
So can I ask a question, you don't mind, in this case, since this is a new subject and we're going to talk about it? There must be a point where it's profitable to deal with an anaerobic digester without an infusion of public funds. And my experience is that those kinds of things are usually associated with a large agriculture community because of the animal waste that goes to the end. And we have a very small agricultural community here. In fact, the smallest in the state.
Yes.
So would we fall below the economic threshold with just human waste? Or these are basic questions that need to be answered. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think your point is excellent. That on its own, if you just take the wastewater treatment, it is a below energy. So you don't produce enough energy to cover what it. But what's happened in Newport here already is that they've started collecting compostable biosolids. Biomass from Newport. So if we add all of the waste from restaurants, from homes, the trimmings, lawn trimmings, all that, and we add it to the digester, and that's my best solution is the co-digesting anaerobic digester, where you put the digester, and a number of cities already have this. You put it in fact, Gresham has one right now that is now passed in 2015, and I just got the article from Energy Trust. They passed that threshold where they're now producing more energy than they're needing, and they're able to sell that. And so the idea is to take the organic waste that we have that's just being thrown out, because half the waste in this county that's going to landfill is organic waste. It's stuff from, I mean, we have some large institutional grocery stores, restaurants, resorts, all these places. They're just taking their organic waste and it's ending up in the landfill. And the Oregon legislature is actually, they've mandated that we find ways to reduce. There's a bill that's been passed to reduce the amount of waste that's going to landfill. So whatever our solutions are, we got to make sure, we can actually incorporate this whole thing where if we bring it all together, we take the organic waste, we take the human waste, and we put that together, we can put together a co-digester that will be profitable as far as not, and in fact, that's the thing with the private financing. We're not going to get private financing unless we can show that. And it's my goal that I believe cities are already burdened enough with having to come up with funds for this or that, and there are real things that need to be done, but I think if an anaerobic digester is done properly, that is eliminated, and you can get the private financing, and you can actually create something of value. That's my strong belief.
Very good information. I think certainly should be a part of our conversation as we move forward.
Great.
Again, I've been a firm believer that sometimes spending a little bit of money up front to get long-term savings is a good investment.
Yes.
So.
Well, but the good news with Energy Trust is they provide that seed money. So they have up to $200,000 that they can provide for the early seed money for things like feasibility studies, even pre-feasibility studies. So again, we can even mitigate the amount that may have to come out of any public funds. It would be my desire that no public funds get used at all, but just having the support of commissioners and cities to make this happen. I think building a coalition of the willing is more important and a little more difficult than one might think. I know you guys have dealt probably with cities and localities, especially at the county level, and you know how that goes. You have one group here and one group there, and it can be. But I think in this case, we have everybody who's they have the right kind of motivation. I think that could make it a little bit easier.
Very good.
It's mentioned yesterday we met with the tribe, and this might be one of those kinds of things where the tribe and county went together would make us a #1 priority.
Certainly has great potential.
Yeah, and I would. Yeah, I think that's one of my next things. I'd like to sort of have an opportunity to speak at the tribal council, and I've started researching a little bit into that. And I was at the Lincoln City tribal sort of meeting that they had, and I did leave one of my flyers with the head of the tribal council, and so I've put a small introduction there. So I'm just going to keep banging on doors, and hopefully we can make something positive happen out of this.
Thank you.
Cool. You're welcome. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Any other individual wish to address the Board of Commissioners? All right, that concludes constituent input.